Okay, so Johnny Somali,
Yeah.
we asked you guys to send us stuff,
Okay.
and wow, did you deliver
Yeah.
articles, forum threads, even legal documents.
Uh-huh.
This is a lot to unpack,
Is.
and it's unsettling, to say the least.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's super fascinating, but also just like
I know.
kind of makes your skin crawl.
So for anyone listening who maybe hasn't been following along at home,
Right.
Johnny Somali is a live streamer,
Yeah.
and he's basically infamous for stirring up trouble,
Yeah.
mostly in Japan and South Korea.
Right.
And we're talking offensive comments,
Yeah.
public disruptions, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, he's really gone there.
He's gone there and then some.
Yeah.
And the biggest question we keep coming back to is like, why?
Right. What is the motivation?
Yeah.
What is the end game?
Is he trying to make a statement?
Is he just a jerk?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, is it really that simple?
I mean, I don't know.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because when you go back and look at his earlier stuff, like, he started as a pretty standard travel vlogger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can find his early videos
Okay.
exploring different countries, trying new foods, the usual.
So how did he go from
I know, it's weird.
like Anthony Bourdain to
Yeah, right.
like whatever this is?
Yeah, it's like a gradual shift, but at some point, it's like he realized that controversy equals clicks,
Right.
and he just kept upping the ante.
It's like hold my beer energy taken to the extreme.
Totally. And it's not like he's the first one to figure this out either, right?
No, we were talking about this before we started recording.
Yeah.
Like, we're millennials. We've seen this playbook before.
Totally. Those early YouTube pranksters. Think about the Paul brothers.
Oh, yeah.
All those guys causing chaos in Japan.
Yep.
They built their careers on pushing the limits.
Right.
And a lot of times it was at the expense of other people.
Yeah. There was definitely collateral damage.
For sure.
So this, like, shock jock approach,
Yeah.
that's not new.
No, it's been around forever.
But it does feel like Somali's taken it to a whole new level.
Yeah. And it's that targeting of cultural sensitivities that makes it so disturbing.
Yeah. And let's get into that. Because his trip to Japan, this was not random.
Uh-huh.
It feels almost strategic.
I think it was absolutely strategic.
Like, Japan has this reputation, right?
For politeness.
For order, for
harmony.
harmony, yes.
Yeah.
And you go to a place that's known for that and you just intentionally disrupt it.
I know. It's almost like he was looking for a rise out of people.
Yeah, like he wanted to
See,
see.
how far can I push this
Yeah.
before something happens?
And he pushed it pretty far.
He did. He harassing people on the street.
I saw those videos.
Yeah.
Like straight up
Trespassing.
yelling at people.
Making offensive remarks about really sensitive historical events.
Like,
Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
oh my God.
I mean, to talk about a third rail.
Yeah, like what kind of mental gymnastics do you have to do to justify that?
I know.
To go to a country
That's still dealing with the trauma of those events.
and make light of them.
I mean, it's mind-boggling.
It is.
And the thing is, even getting arrested and fined for trespassing.
He got arrested
Oh, yeah.
in Japan.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, most people would be like,
Okay, maybe I should...
okay, like rethink my life choices.
Yeah,
But not him.
not him. He got banned from Japan.
Oh, really?
Supported.
Wow.
And that didn't stop him.
It just fueled the fire.
It's like the consequences just made him double down.
Okay, so banned from Japan, he moves on to South Korea,
Oh.
and things escalate quickly.
Oh, yeah.
We're not just talking obnoxious pranks anymore.
No, this is where it gets really dark.
So tell me what happened in South Korea.
So we see him playing pornography on public transportation, which is,
What?
I know, bizarre and incredibly inappropriate.
Yeah, no matter where you are.
Right.
That's just
Yeah.
not okay.
But then there's the incident with the Statue of Peace.
Okay, this is the one that really got to me.
It's hard to even talk about.
It is.
I mean, you have to have some kind of messed up logic, you know, to even think about doing something like this.
So for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with this,
Right.
break it down for us.
So this statue commemorates comfort women
Great, right.
during World War II.
Right.
It's a deeply sensitive
Incredibly sensitive.
and painful part of Korean history,
Yeah.
a symbol of national trauma. And for him to desecrate this monument,
It's beyond comprehension.
yeah, and even someone with zero knowledge of Korean history can understand the utter disrespect in that act.
Absolutely.
And that's where the why question becomes even more pressing.
Right. Like, what is the motivation?
Is this pure attention-seeking, a warped sense of humor?
Is there something darker?
Right, is there a deeper motivation?
What's the end game here?
It's a puzzle with a lot of missing pieces, and honestly, I'm not sure we'll ever have all the answers.
But maybe that's part of the point, right?
Maybe.
Maybe he wants us to be asking these questions.
Right.
Debating his actions, questioning his motives.
It all feeds the algorithm, right? The more we talk about it, the more visibility he gets, even if it's negative attention.
It's like the old saying, any publicity is good publicity.
Exactly, and that's the disturbing reality of the internet age. Controversy generates clicks.
And clicks translate into...
influence, notoriety, and potentially even profit.
It's a vicious cycle.
It really is.
That's hard to break.
Yeah, once you're caught up in it, it's hard to get out.
So we have this guy who thrives on controversy, pushing the envelope further and further.
And seemingly without any regard for the consequences.
But actions have consequences, right?
They do.
And in this case, it looks like the universe might be serving up a hefty dose of karma.
Yeah, his fun and games in South Korea seem to have finally caught up with him.
What happened?
He was arrested.
He was.
And now he's facing some serious charges: assault, potential drug use, and a whole laundry list of violations related to public order.
So this isn't just a slap on the wrist?
No, we're talking potential jail time in a foreign country.
Which, let's be honest, is probably not going to be a walk in the park.
No, not at all.
And maybe, just maybe some serious time to reflect on his choices.
Right.
Might be what he needs.
It could be a much-needed reality check.
Yeah.
Even for someone who seems to revel in chaos.
So beyond the legal ramifications,
Right.
there's the question of his online persona, his reputation.
Yeah, I mean, he might have millions of views.
But he's also earned the scorn of millions of people.
Yeah, and that's a thing about the internet, right? It's a double-edged sword. You can gain fame and notoriety quickly.
But that infamy can stick with you just as fast.
Absolutely. It's like a digital tattoo.
That's hard to erase.
Yeah.
So his case really does raise some important questions
It does.
about the responsibility of content creators.
Especially those who operate abroad.
Yeah. Where's the line between freedom of expression and outright disrespect?
Right, and what role do platforms like Kick, where he primarily streamed play, in moderating this kind of content?
It's a complex issue
It is.
with no easy answers.
For sure, and that's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating and, frankly, a little bit terrifying.
It is a little terrifying.
Yeah.
We're seeing the dark underbelly of internet culture play out in real time with real-world consequences.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, is this just the tip of the iceberg?
Yeah, are there more Johnny Somalis out there just waiting to exploit our outrage for their own gain?
That's a scary thought.
It is, and that's something we'll definitely explore further as we delve deeper into this case.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and try to understand the man behind the mask.
Right.
Who is Ramzi Ismail,
Yeah.
the person behind the Johnny Somali persona?
Yeah, what were the formative experiences, the influences that shaped him into the individual we see today?
Because, let's be real, there's got to be more to this story than just guy goes online, acts like a jerk.
Right. There's a whole backstory here.
And we're going to try to unpack it
Yes, we are.
in the next part of this deep dive.
So if you're as intrigued and maybe a little disturbed as we are, stick with us.
We're about to go even deeper into the rabbit hole.
Buckle up.
So, we've been talking about this Johnny Somali guy.
Yeah.
Real name, Ramzi Khalid Ismail.
Right.
And he's a bit of an enigma.
He is.
Like, what makes someone tick like this?
Right.
But as we dig deeper, the question that keeps coming back to me is like, where did this all start?
Yeah. Was there something in his past?
Like some event, some influence that set him on this path.
Right. Was it nature or nurture?
You've been combing through the background info. What have you uncovered?
Well, it's interesting because there's not a lot of publicly available information about his early life.
Really?
Yeah, it's like he's trying to keep it under wraps.
So what do we know?
Well, we know he was born in 2000 in Phoenix, Arizona, to a family with Somali and Ethiopian heritage.
Okay, so he's a millennial like us,
Right.
which I think is an important point to consider.
I think it's huge
Okay, so why is that significant?
because we came of age during the rise of the internet, social media, the whole online fame game. Like, we've witnessed firsthand how the definition of celebrity has changed.
Yeah.
How the pursuit of attention, even negative attention, has become this driving force for some people.
It's true. When we were kids, being famous meant being on TV or in movies.
Right.
Now it's all about going viral, racking up millions of followers on TikTok or Instagram.
It's a whole different ballgame.
So you're saying the internet itself might have played a role in shaping Somali's worldview?
I think it's definitely a factor.
Okay.
I mean, he's a digital native.
Right.
Someone who grew up immersed in online culture.
Okay.
And we know that social media can be a double-edged sword.
Oh, absolutely.
It can connect people, build communities, but it can also fuel narcissism, envy, and a constant need for validation.
Yeah, it's almost like a digital echo chamber where the loudest, most outrageous voices tend to rise to the top.
Exactly.
But like that old saying,
What's that?
give a man a mask and he'll show you his true face.
Oh, yeah.
But in this case, it's give a guy a webcam and an internet connection.
And bam, you get Johnny Somali.
Right.
And it's not just him. We've seen this pattern before with other creators
Oh, yeah.
who have achieved notoriety through similar tactics. It's
Certainly.
like there's a blueprint for online infamy.
Okay.
And pushing boundaries, especially cultural boundaries, is a key ingredient.
So was there anything unique about Somali's upbringing, his personality, that might have made him more susceptible to this kind of path?
That's where it gets tricky because based on the information that's available, it seems like he had a relatively normal childhood.
Really?
Yeah, but remember, we're dealing with someone who has carefully curated his online persona.
So we don't really know the real Ramsey Ismail.
It's hard to say for sure.
It's all just part of the act.
It's possible.
Okay, so what do we know about his early days as a content creator?
Oh, we know he got into it early on, but probably in his early teens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he started making videos around the same time YouTube and other platforms were taking off.
So he was part of that first wave of YouTubers.
Exactly. He saw the potential of online video before it became mainstream.
And initially his content was pretty harmless, right?
Yeah, travel videos, exploring different cultures, that kind of thing.
It's like he started out genuinely interested in connecting with the world.
Right, and there's something almost ironic about that, considering how things eventually unfolded.
It's true.
He was drawn to Asia, specifically East Asia,
Okay.
which is where his antics would eventually land him in hot water.
So it's like he was fascinated by these cultures, but somewhere along the line, that fascination took a dark turn.
Yeah, instead of trying to understand and appreciate these cultures,
Right.
he started using them as props for his own twisted performance.
So the million-dollar question is what changed?
Right.
When and why did he go from travel vlogger to Johnny Somali, the agent of chaos?
That's the part we're still trying to figure out.
Was there some kind of aha moment? Did he just wake up one day and decide to embrace the dark side?
I mean, there's no clear turning point, no single event that we can pinpoint.
So maybe it wasn't a sudden change, but more like a series of choices.
Yeah, a gradual erosion of boundaries until he crossed a line he couldn't come back from.
And we have to remember he wasn't operating in a vacuum.
Right, he was part of a larger trend,
Okay.
a growing subculture of online creators who were pushing the envelope, blurring the lines between entertainment and exploitation.
Right, like those prank channels where people film themselves doing ridiculous, often offensive things to unsuspecting strangers.
Exactly. It's like a whole genre of content built on making people uncomfortable or even causing them harm for the sake of views.
And those views translate into...
money, influence, notoriety.
Right.
It creates this feedback loop where the more outrageous you are, the more successful you become.
It's a toxic dynamic.
It really is, and it's hard to escape once you're caught up in it.
So in a way, Somali is both a product and a perpetrator of this toxic online culture.
I think that's a really good way to put it.
Like he feeds off of it, but he's also contributing to it, making it worse.
Exactly, and that's what makes this whole case so disturbing. It's not just about one guy being a jerk. It's about the larger forces at play, the way that the internet can warp our perceptions, our values, even our humanity.
It's a cautionary tale.
It is.
A reminder that the pursuit of fame and attention can lead us down some very dark paths.
Absolutely. And maybe by delving deeper into Somali's story, we can shed some light on those larger issues, those darker corners of the internet that we'd rather not think about but can't afford to ignore.
So let's shift our focus to his choice of targets.
Okay.
Why Asia?
Right.
What was it about these specific cultures that drew him in and ultimately led to his downfall?
That's a fascinating question, and one that I think reveals a lot about his motivations, his understanding of the online landscape and the power of cultural clash.
Sounds like we're about to uncover another layer of this complex puzzle.
Yeah.
Let's dive in. So we keep coming back to this question of why?
Yeah.
Why would someone go to these lengths
Right.
to cause this much offense and disruption?
Especially targeting specific cultures.
We've talked about the internet, the quest for fame, the allure of pushing boundaries, but there's something about his focus on Asia
Yeah.
that feels calculated.
It wasn't random.
That
His
was-
choice to target Japan and South Korea specifically.
Yeah.
It seems very deliberate.
Like he knew exactly which buttons to push.
Right.
to get the most extreme reaction.
to get people riled up.
So why Asia?
Right.
What made these countries such appealing targets?
Well, on a practical level, East Asia is a popular destination
Okay.
for travel vloggers and streamers.
Right.
It's relatively inexpensive to travel there.
Yeah.
The cultures are diverse and visually striking,
Okay.
and there's a certain exoticism that
Right.
attracts Western audiences.
Like the whole mysterious East kind of vibe.
Exactly.
That's been in movies and TV shows forever.
Yeah, and it's almost like he was weaponizing those stereotypes.
Instead of showcasing Asian cultures,
Right.
he was intentionally twisting them, distorting them,
Yeah.
using them as a backdrop for his provocations.
And he knew.
And by doing so, he tapped into a whole layer of pre-existing biases and assumptions
Exactly.
that exist in Western culture.
It's like he was trying to create this clash of civilizations.
Right.
This manufactured conflict that would generate maximum outrage.
And it worked.
It did, and that's what makes this case so disturbing.
Yeah.
It's not just about one guy being a jerk.
Yeah.
It's about the way he exploited those cultural differences.
Yeah.
Those pre-existing tensions for his own personal gain.
He was playing with fire.
He was, and he knew it.
And he specifically targeted countries with a complex history with the West.
Right. Japan with its history of conflict with the U.S.
And South Korea.
which is still technically at war with North Korea.
There's a lot of baggage there.
A lot of potential for misunderstanding and resentment.
And it's like he understood that instinctively.
Yeah, he was tapping into those existing narratives
Cultural fault lines.
and using them to fuel his own twisted agenda.
So cynical.
It
It's
is.
like he was consciously trying to provoke a reaction,
To stir up trouble.
all for the sake of clicks and views.
And that's the dark reality of the internet age outrage. Sells controversy, generates clicks.
And in a world where attention translates into influence and profit,
Right.
there's a powerful incentive to push the boundaries, even if it means crossing ethical lines.
It's a disturbing trend, and honestly, I'm not sure what the solution is.
It feels like we're all caught in this web of algorithms and outrage,
Yeah.
where the loudest, most offensive voices tend to rise to the top.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but I think the first step is awareness.
Okay.
We need to be more critical of what we consume online,
Yeah.
more discerning about the sources we trust, and more conscious of how our own engagement contributes to this cycle of outrage.
We can't just sit back and passively consume whatever the algorithm throws at us.
Right. We have to be active participants, asking questions, challenging assumptions.
Holding creators accountable
Exactly.
for the content they produce.
And that includes platforms like Kick, where Somali primarily streamed.
Yeah.
They have a responsibility to moderate content.
To create a space that's not just a breeding ground for hate and exploitation.
Right. It's a tough balance for sure.
On the one hand, you want to protect freedom of expression.
But on the other hand, you don't want to create a platform where people can get away with blatant disrespect and harmful behavior.
It's an ongoing conversation,
It is.
and one that we need to keep having.
Because as the internet continues to evolve, so too will the challenges we face in navigating this complex digital landscape.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
What are the takeaways from this deep dive into the world of Johnny Somali?
What have we learned?
And what questions are we left with?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is the power of the internet
Yeah.
to amplify both the best and worst aspects of human nature.
It's a double-edged sword.
It really is. We've seen how someone can use it to build a platform, gain notoriety, and influence millions of people.
Right.
But we've also seen how that same power can be used for destructive purposes, to spread hate, to exploit vulnerabilities, and to profit from outrage.
It's a cautionary tale for sure.
It-
A reminder that the internet is a tool.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or evil.
The responsibility ultimately lies with the individual wielding that tool.
And with those of us who consume and engage with online content,
We have a responsibility.
to be informed, to be critical, and to hold both creators and platforms accountable for the kind of world we're building online.
Because at the end of the day, the internet is a reflection of ourselves.
Of our values, our biases, and our aspirations.
It's up to us to decide what kind of reflection we want to see.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored the strange case of Johnny Somali, the motivations behind his actions, the cultural dynamics at play.
And the broader implications for the future of the internet.
It's been a wild ride.
It has full of twists and turns and frankly more than a few moments of what the heck.
But hopefully this conversation has sparked some critical thinking.
Yeah, some self-reflection and maybe even some healthy skepticism about the information we encounter online.
Absolutely, because as we've seen, the truth is often more complex, more nuanced, and more disturbing than it appears on the surface.
And it's up to each of us to dig deeper.
To ask the tough questions, and to demand better from ourselves and from the online world we inhabit.
So for all of you listening, thanks for joining us on this journey.
We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking.
And maybe even a little bit unsettling.
And remember, the next time you encounter something outrageous online, take a moment to pause to question.
To consider the motivations behind it.
Because sometimes the most shocking content is also the most carefully calculated.
And with that, we'll leave you to ponder the mysteries of the internet and the strange case of Johnny Somali.
Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay safe out there in the digital wilds.